Delaney, and I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery, and this is our Sunday morning Why Wait for Recovery community meeting.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Haiti, and I'm so blessed and grateful to be here today, to actually have got up this morning, but also to be in recovery. I'm a compulsive overeater. I am a binger, a purger, a food addict, and a drug addict who's in recovery.
I think we should write a song about that.
You should.
And I'm an alcoholic, drug addict, anorexic in recovery, and the recovery is the important part for me. The other parts make me part of who I am, and the recovery part allows me to be the person that I want to be.
So the recovery part for me, I'm the person who had bariatric surgery and thought being thin would make me happy and my life would be complete. And
how did that work out for you?
Not very well. I lost 150 pounds and I was miserable, and I was empty on the inside, and I was frustrated, and it was like not using and being absolutely miserable and not having the tools, because I'm that person who spent my whole life dieting. You know, I do a diet, lose weight, gain the weight, beat myself up when I did that and during the whole process, and I'd be full of shame and guilt and beat myself up for not having willpower and being able to do things that everyone else looked like they could do really easily. And I didn't realize that it wasn't really just me in terms of the things that I was doing, but it was the way that I was thinking that really was the key issue.
Yeah, and so you said full of shame, and I thought you were going to say full of shit,
Well,
which is
too.
the truth, because we were full of shit, right? We were completely different on the outside than we were on the inside. Completely different. And living with that conflict is really hard, and you know, they say that we didn't step into recovery to stay miserable. And so if we could put down a drink or lose 150 pounds and that would make us happy, and the reason that we were using was because we were unhappy, then nobody would ever use again, right? Then we would all diet, or we'd stop drinking for a week, and then we'd all get happy, and then nobody would ever pick up.
You know,
So
I always said I was an emotional eater. You know, when things were going good, I ate. When things were going bad, when I was stressed, when I was happy, when I was sad, I used any excuse to be able to use. And it's interesting because yesterday we were talking about impulse, you know, acting on impulse. When I was in active addiction, and food for me is one of the substances that I abused, because I used it to self-medicate. I used it to change how I felt. I used it to, at times when I thought it would be socially acceptable to fit in. So I used it to, because I always felt different, and I thought it would make me feel the same on the inside. So when I had those impulses, all I was really doing every day was feeding my addiction. So I'd start off in the morning.
feeding my addiction.
I started in the morning swearing I wouldn't have this, and next thing I faced the drive-through, you know, and my constant actions were constantly acting on impulse rather than actually having a choice in terms of the things that I was doing.
Yeah, so we're talking about emotional eating. Our next class on a Thursday night is going to be about emotional eating and how to stop eating emotionally. And you know, it's funny because when we say that we're emotionally eating, which emotion are we eating? Because we're eating all the time. I was an emotional drinker. I drank 24 hours a day. So I guess I had a lot of different emotions that I drank about. Like you said, you know, if I'm happy or I'm scared or I'm whatever, no matter what that emotion was, gave us some kind of excuse to change the way that we were feeling at that time, no matter what it is that we were feeling at that time. And are we having a problem on Zoom?
No,
Go
it was
ahead.
Karen.
Okay.
So, for, you know, when I started through this process, I lumped everything together. So it was either I felt good or I felt bad, but I never really took the time to look at what the actual things were. And there's a whole litany of different kinds of emotions. You know, when we look at them, there's thousands and thousands of things that we could be feeling at one time. And that was something I had to learn. You know, I thought that I knew everything. I'd been doing the same thing for 51 years, and I thought I had this down pat, and the only thing I really had down pat was how to hurt myself, in terms of always beating myself up and being really mean to myself and getting the same results I ever got.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing, is that we always got the same results, and for some reason we thought that we were going to practice the same behavior or fix whatever was going on with the same behavior, or abusing whatever it is that we were abusing. And we were stuck and sick and scared and miserable. And I'm going to just touch on, you know, every negative emotion is fear-based. And so being in recovery is learning about acceptance, changing our perspective, and learning to walk through that fear, no matter what that fear is. You know, fear puts that wall between us and the rest of the world. And we find out that we have a whole lot of fears that whether we're scared or not, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So, I tell you guys, like, if you're going to make up a story, make up a good one. So when we're making up that negative story and we're walking around in fear, the only thing is, usually, especially for an active addiction, is that it's giving us more fuel for that fire just to continue to use and to stay sick and to stay scared and to do the same thing over again. God, really, it's crazy, right?
It's
When you
crazy.
think about how the addicted mind works. It's amazing.
So we do these live streams on a Sunday morning. You can either join us in our virtual waitlist room, which is you just go to the website, log in, and you'll get a code to be able to join us. You can live stream us on Facebook and on YouTube. And one of the reasons that we actually really started doing this is firstly to be of service because it helps us in our recovery. And service is gratitude in action. It's being able to get out of our heads for a little bit of space to actually do something that just really, I believe, helps teach. And also, we believe that recovery is possible, and that is why we really do this. With the right tools and with the right program and being in community, it's possible to be healthy and happy and have the choice to be able to make those choices every single day and be able to see what you've actually got of value in your life rather than focusing on what you don't have.
Yeah, and coming to the realization that when we're using, it's a choice that we're making. No matter what we're going through, it's still a choice that we're making, that choice to pick up. So,
well, that's interesting because I hear people telling me, well, my mother was an addict or an alcoholic or a food addict, or my father or my sister or all these other people in our world, that they're doing whatever they're doing, and there might have been generations of people doing the same thing over and over again, but it doesn't mean that we need to perpetuate that cycle. Today we do have a choice.
Well, we've always had that choice.
Right.
It's just that, what our parents should, they don't know that much about the brain, and they certainly don't know so much about the addictive brain, but we know in an addictive brain, we practice a behavior that we know is hurting us, and for some reason we feel like we can't stop. And we have to stop so that we can clean out our receptors in our brain so that we can get some recovery so that we don't use. And why it is that our brain works like that and somebody else's brain out there doesn't, they're not really sure, but those are kind of facts, right? That our brains work differently. Other people don't do the same thing today as they did yesterday, knowing that they're going to get hurt just as badly today as they did yesterday, either emotionally or physically or spiritually.
And it's interesting to me because I meet addicts in all different realms. No matter what you're picking up, all of us come to the same place where we are hopeless, we're lonely, we just feel different and have always felt different compared to other people. We compare ourselves to other people all the time. That shame and that guilt and that inability to really face life on life's terms without hurting ourselves is something that really seems to unify us.
Yeah, and the way that we're gonna, again, it goes back to fear, and the way that we're gonna learn to walk through that fear is with changing our perspective and learning to have some acceptance for the way that the world turns.
So, and what I realized is, I've had the same box, and I always talk about this, when they say think outside the box, my thinking was the same thinking that I developed for 51 years. Okay, but I kept thinking that same thoughts, and I thought I knew everything that was good for me, and my thinking was upside down. I needed to be able to get new information in and learn from people who really had what I wanted. And I'm not talking the material things, because I've been extremely fortunate and blessed to have every single material thing I could have ever imagined. And that wasn't enough. It didn't make me happy. It made me happy for a very small amount of time. Getting that new car, having the beautiful house, doing the shopping, all those things made me happy for really short periods of time. But deep down on the inside, I was empty, and I really was lonely, and I was scared, and I didn't know how to get out of this hole that I'd dug for myself.
Yeah, and so for a lot of us, it's actually relearning how to live, and that relearning how to live, again, is being able to look at the world through different eyes, right? About changing our perspective, about changing what we're looking at and what we're looking for, and learning how to get some happy. And once we can keep ourselves clean for a little bit, we step into recovery and we start to get some happy, it allows us, as gratitude begets gratitude, right? Misery kind of begets misery. And so when I'm sitting in my poop and I choose to stay here, I'm just going to become more miserable. right? If I have a challenge and I'm looking for the solution, that's going to help to change my perspective a little bit. You guys, there's a community out there of people. Why Wait for Recovery is a community of people that you could reach out to, of like-minded people that are going through the same stuff that you are. You guys, none of us are unique. We're addicts. That makes us all the same. When we're looking for the part of us that makes me different from you, I got a challenge. When I can look at how we're the same and how we can help each other and how we can support each other and how we can move forward together, in that community, that's what's going to help to keep me sane and also let go of some fear, because I know that there's somebody that's got my back.
So my biggest identifier was that I was surrounded by assholes.
Yeah,
You know, when my world was surrounded by assholes and people around me were really driving me crazy and I was living angry and on edge all the time, that was a sign for me that something was wrong and maybe I was the asshole. You know, I needed to see things a little bit differently, because, you know, when I compare other people's stuff, I live my life like that. When I had made that decision to have bariatric surgery, I thought it would be a quick fix. I thought that it was that instant pill that would change the whole paradigm forever and I'd be absolutely thin forever and never have to worry about anything. So it's not true. So I invite anyone who's actually pre or post bariatric surgery to join our community, because there are a lot of resources here. Because what happens is, for a very short period of time, we lose those hunger and those craving impulses, and then everything comes back because it's not a physical issue. You know, the physical part's taken care of for a very short period of time. The whole thing is, no matter where we go, there we are, because it's the same thinking. So unless we get real tools and real support from other people like us, not people who are feeding our addiction and justifying why it's okay for us to keep doing the same things that put us in the place that we're in today and make us think that it's okay to keep hurting ourselves. But I'm talking real tools where we actually learn to have a choice, change our perspective, see the world differently, so we can end up living happy and healthy lives.
Yeah, and that's going to be working on both parts. So we're going to talk about emotional eating on the class on Thursday, March 7th, correct?
Yeah, March 7th.
Yeah, we're going
at
to talk
6:30.
about that and what that really means, you know, and there's definitely a physical component. We know for sure there's that spiritual or emotional component, but there's that physical component as well. And so we're going to learn what that means, what that looks like in our brain, and how, if we work on the both of those at the same time, that recovery is possible. And you guys, you know, no matter what we're going through in recovery, it looks a whole lot better than whatever we thought looked good while we were in active addiction. Do we have any questions online yet?
So one of the big things that also came up is, you know, diet seems to be a big issue within the bariatric community. And I know that it's something that we don't touch on the nutrition side, but there's definitely this component. As an addict, we need to see, well, we can choose to see what we're putting into our bodies differently and make different choices. Because if we keep looking to act the same way and do exactly the same things that we were doing before, and feeding that addiction makes it just so much more difficult to actually step forward, because you're always stuck in being in the same place that you are.
Right, you're talking about an alcoholic who wants to drink 3 days a week instead of 7 days a week.
Well, I'm talking about the alcoholic who drinks whiskey and then thinks beer's okay.
Well, right, so same. So we're still physically doing the same thing. We're still touching whatever receptor. And if being an alcoholic, if I could have one drink on Wednesday, I wouldn't be an alcoholic. So,
Right.
and so the that physical, that feedback in our brain, that however that's happening physically, chemically, that doesn't go away unless we stop using. And again, we're going to need to stop using, go through that horrible week or two, or horrendous week or two in the beginning, and go through that physical withdrawal so that we can step into some kind of recovery, meaning that emotionally we're going to learn how to get well so that we don't depend on picking up.
So the beauty with having bariatric surgery is you're forced into, it's almost like a rehab. So your body goes clean, because all you're really doing is you're doing the liquids, you're cleaning out your system, you're
Well, supposedly, because not even everybody does that.
Right, but I'm
Right.
talking a large majority of people follow the protocol in the beginning because they're scared, and it took a lot to get to that point where they are. After 2 weeks, okay, is when the wheels start falling off the bus. So the big thing is you've gone through the withdrawals, a lot of it. You're going to land up miserable, angry, and really discontent, because for me, food was a tool. It was the way that I could either escape a situation, walk away from a situation, be involved in a situation, whatever the stories were, was the excuse. And all of a sudden, when we're unable to eat, becomes really difficult to deal with life as it's showing up. And that's where the fear starts coming in, and that's where the anger and the resentment and all the other stuff started coming in for me, and I can only talk from my story. So it's a great time, especially if you have got a surgery scheduled, if you've just had surgery, if you're going for surgery, if you're in the middle of it, it's a great time to step into recovery. For me, getting thin was the easy part because it happens, you're cutting down your intake anyway. The big game changer for me is really the recovery component, because without that, I honestly would be back where I was before. You know, people don't talk about the weight gain after having bariatric surgery, or what we call the relapse. And you know, so many people go for revision surgeries. So many people become alcoholics after having this, because they think if I'm not picking up the food, I can start introducing alcohol into my system. But it's the same. It's still the same thinking. I'm not actually dealing with something that is a crucial issue. And the craziest part of it is the procrastination. You know, when it comes to doing things for me, I tend to procrastinate. Doing things for everyone else, I'm all over it. I'm not the most organized, the doer, the get stuff done. But when it comes for doing things for me, I'll procrastinate. The person I took the longest to get in and work on really was me. And that's the most important relationship that I've got in my life. You know, and not only that, it's really difficult giving your true self to others if you don't know what that looks like, if you're constantly lying to yourself, and if you're not willing to learn something new and you're not willing to grow. So really, that's one of the reasons we put these classes together, is to help people move through that and learn and grow and be able to get better tools to do things a little bit differently.
Yeah, and you know that you said that after your surgery, like a couple of weeks after your surgery, the fear set in, and that fear you had all the time. That fear you had before your surgery, or you wouldn't have been however many pounds overweight you were. And so you guys, it's, yes ma'am. So you guys, it's never about, you know, we say it's never about what we're eating, it's about what's eating us. It's never about what we're picking up. Everybody's spiritual reason behind why they're using is pretty much the same, right? It's always going to be those fear-based emotions that we're doing our best to change with some type of substance. And we're picking up a substance that we know is going to hurt us, no matter what that is, or behavior that we know is going to hurt us, and we do it anyway, and we feel demoralized and sick and scared and secretive, and we lie to others and we lie to ourselves. And you remember, I remember waking up in the morning and saying, like, how can this be who I am? How can I be this person? Like, how did this happen? You know, how did I turn into this person? And sometimes the how, you know, how did this happen? It happened, it is what it is, and then it's learning to get rid of the fear and walk through it. Yes, Ange?
When Haiti was speaking, I was just thinking that what she's saying is all true, but I think that it very simplistically comes back to we have a choice. We either decide, because we're going to feel the fear, which we've had before and we have after and we have during, and we're going to have the thoughts, and we're going to have everything. It's that the important thing goes back to is that we have a choice.
Yeah, we do have a choice, and that we need to remember that those feelings aren't facts.
Right.
They're just feelings. Nobody dies from a feeling. You know, I feel upset today. Okay. You know, you're allowed to feel upset today. Let's figure out a way to get through it. I feel scared. I feel resentful. I fear they're all fear-based, but they're just feelings. And so we don't have to change our brain chemistry. We need to change the way that we look at things so that we don't have to walk around with so much fear. Good morning, Bonnie.
Good morning.
Nice to see you this morning.
Yes, it's good to be here.
So anything about fear that you want to share?
Well, that was perfect what you just said, because the worst, I had shared this once before, and my worst fear is trying on clothing that fits me right. It's, my husband started buying me dresses again, and I noticed that same fear of, will I look good in it? Even before I try it on, will it even go on? Like that whole conversation of how I am in relationship to my body.
Right, so you're talking about actually also self-esteem, right? Because you're not having the attitude like, wow, this is cool and it's new and it's going to be awesome. You're like, I'm going to put this on and I'm going to feel guilty and ashamed because I'm not where it is that I had hoped to be.
Or I can't even see, like if I am that way. Like it still doesn't look like, wow, like I did wear a dress last week that it got me, and everyone said I was like beautiful, and I got that, but initially, until I put that dress on, it was like painful. Like that
And
was,
so you're talking about what's going on the outside,
yeah.
and you're talking about your ego, right? How you think other people see you, and none of that serves you. Because my opinion of how you look in that dress is none of your business. That's just my opinion. If I'm in a great mood, maybe I think you're the most beautiful looking woman I've ever seen, and I can't believe you have that gorgeous dress. If I wake up this morning and I'm pissed off, maybe I'm gonna say, I can't believe she wore that dress. Did you see she wore that dress? When we talk about the 4 agreements and don't take it personally,
Yeah.
we have to find how we look and how we feel and how we are inside of us, and get rid of that fear of being judged, because judgment is just that. That comes from the other person. That doesn't come from you.
Right.
So it's you feeling comfortable being you.
Well, I was definitely judging myself. It wasn't anyone else. I mean, I was to the point where my husband kept on saying, you're going to try the dress and you're going to try the dress on, and I had to tell him, you know, like, you have to stop. When I'm ready, I will, and I did, and it was great. But it was like that window that was just driving me crazy, and I didn't look at it as self-esteem, but I can take it on as self-esteem.
Yeah, because we're in fear of you know, there's so many things going on in the world, and then we spend so much time thinking about when we're going to try on a dress. You know, if we think about that, like, there are real things going on in the world. And then our biggest fear that week, or what we're going to carry around with us, is how a dress is going to look on us.
Right. Well, I can handle those big things.
Right. Well, because they don't have anything to do with you, or your ego, right? Or the way that you're hoping that you look to the world, right?
Well, yeah, that's probably more than anything, like the whole, because I still have this conversation when people see me in my office. I mean, I'm more comfortable with it, but initially, and because I'm wearing clothes that fit better, everyone's like, my God, and so like I'm feeling more comfortable, where before it was uncomfortable, but it's probably the same thing. Like I don't know. I just maybe it's just being visible to people.
So just remember that if I think you look good, or I think you look horrible, that's about me.
Right.
If you feel comfortable in your
Yeah.
skin today, that's about you.
Right.
And you don't need to worry about what I'm thinking, because you have absolutely no control of what I'm thinking, no matter how great you look and how
Right,
much you
right.
put your makeup on perfectly and how gorgeous your dress looks and all of that stuff. I'm gonna look at you the way that I look at you. Those are through my eyes.
Right.
That's because of my own caca that I'm going
Right.
through, or my own happy that I'm going through, right? And so that's about feeling comfortable inside of our own skin. And what you're talking about, by the way, anybody with any kind of eating disorder, we talk about it all the time. You know, anyone with an eating disorder wakes up in the morning and either thinks we're too fat or we're too skinny. We all do. Like, we all have that in common. So, you know, how many times do we have conversations about, I
Yesterday
can't
we were
believe how
just
fat I
talking-
am, right? I
yeah.
can't believe how fat I am. You know, I'm whatever size I am. And I go through that thing where, like, oh my God, like, how can anybody this fat, like, wear these clothes? I'm not kidding. So when you guys made fun of me because, you know, we talked about the bathtub thing, it's like, I look at the bathtub, do I really fit in that bathtub? And everybody giggled about it, but it wasn't anything to giggle about. You know, that's where my brain was at that time, and that I'm too gigantic to fit into a bathtub. So that crazy thinking, no matter, so that's all fear, you guys. And that crazy thinking is part of our addiction. And when we learn to, and are we, no matter how much clean time we have, clean time and time in recovery, are we gonna have those fears every once in a while? Yeah, we are. You know, especially when we're going through something emotionally fear-based. You know, then those emotions seem to come back again, and then we reach out to somebody in the community and talk it through, find that solution, and help ourselves, have somebody else help us to feel better and put us back on track when we're acting whacked, right?
I'm so pleased that you brought that up, because I really can identify with it, and I know a lot of people out there do as well. Being in that position, the person who's been size 4 through 22 and really don't know what my size is, that absolute fear of things not fitting is the craziest headspace to be in. Instead of going, wow, it's a new dress, and being excited that it's a new dress and just putting on with the expectation that it's going to look great, was always like that validation of either being good or bad, or I do or I don't deserve this, is the headspace I go into. And on the swing side, even though I look for attention in certain ways, when I lost a lot of weight, a lot of people started coming to me and said, "Well, what did you do? How did you lose so much weight?" And I recoiled from that attention because I didn't know how to deal with it. So I started lying. I started telling them the diets that I did, and I had bariatric surgery. But the thing is, I was so uncomfortable in my own skin that I put so much value on the material, physical stuff, and really not the stuff that's inside me, that no matter what it is, if I was feeling good that it was a new dress, I should just be happy that it's a new dress and I feel good, irrespective of anything else.
And that we don't really need to spend that much time thinking about the dress.
100%.
Right?
Yeah, but it's amazing.
That
It
we're
took up the whole
definitely
day.
missing the movie. Yes, ma'am.
I have a viewer
Okay.
comment
Sure.
/ question, I guess. Okay, so this is from Annette. She says, just needing to be honest with myself. If I put it out there, maybe I will hear how screwed up I am. Don't need a response. Oh, just trying to be honest. Should I keep reading
Okay.
it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a teacher, had sleeve surgery 15 months ago, lost 100 pounds, husband drives truck, so I'm home alone a lot. Involved in my church, but put on a mask. I have been overeating and I can't make myself throw up. Time. But I wish I could. Eating food I shouldn't. Crazy, I overate on grapes. Came home early from school on Friday because I felt so bad. I have not left my house for 3 days and told people I was sick. I'm not sick. I'm avoiding people. I cannot get up and clean my kitchen. What the hell is wrong with me? I have to get moving because I have to serve at church. I don't know how I feel. I can't figure out what I feel.
Okay. So that thing that you just read, that story is everybody's story who's in active addiction. Everybody's story. Everybody who's in active addiction has that same exact story. I wake up in the morning and I'm doing something and I don't know why I'm doing it, and I promise myself that I'm not going to do it, and I do it anyway, right? And I'm practicing this behavior and I'm going to go to bed guilty and I'm going to wake up ashamed, and I'm going to do the same thing the next day, and I'm scared and I'm scared and I'm scared and I'm scared because I don't know what's driving the behavior and I can't stop. And I'm in pain and I can't tell anybody because I'm embarrassed and ashamed and I'm scared. And so the first thing that you need to do is, you know, we talk about having that abstinence, and in the beginning, abstinence is just that. It's abstinence. It's getting rid of that drug of choice. It's putting down the opiates. You know, it's stopping the gambling. It's putting yourself in the middle of some type of community of people that can help you out. Has this person reached out to us before? Because I didn't hear the name, so.
Yes.
Okay, so start reaching out more, you know, take the class on Thursday, take that. We have a couple of people that have been in workshop. Andrew's been in workshop, we've all been in workshop, right? Workshop. The majority of people that take the workshop are clean. Does that mean that we have the magic answer? The answer is the same for all of us. When a group of us come together and learn how to change our perspective and our actions and learn how to have acceptance and stop fighting against the world and form that community, it helps us to stay clean. And so do what you have to do. I'm gonna tell you right now that it sucks to be you right now. Like, it sucks. Like, how many people remember being that person? It's so scary and it sucks so bad. And I'm really sorry as one addict to another addict that you're going through it. But the challenge right now is that you're in active addiction. And so that's going to be doing what you need to do. We don't promote having surgery or not having surgery. We don't promote seeing a therapist or not seeing a therapist. I need to see a therapist.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, I just need to, like, it's just one of the things, it's one of the things in my toolbox that helps me. I have to be a part of a community. I have to be talking to other people who are in recovery so that when I'm acting, when my thoughts are completely out of whack, that they could let me know, hey, this is what you're thinking, and this is what you're saying, and this is how you're acting. Do we want to rethink this? You know, how do we step into the solution instead of just sitting in the challenge?
And I just wanted to say, Annette, thank you for sharing, because it takes me back to that space in time. My husband worked crazy hours, never saw him. I was working crazy times. And I just remember feeling so lonely and empty on the inside. And even though I was full, it was like I was punishing myself with the food that I was putting in. And even though they were healthy foods and I was abstinent, the thing is my thinking wasn't, and the things that I was doing to hurt me. And I remember that feeling of not being able to throw up when I tried to throw up. And do you know what? I felt that I was defeated. And really this is a game changer. Being able to say, listen, I need help. Reaching out and saying I need help is one thing, but then doing something about it is something totally different. I spend so much time wishing things were different, on how things could look and how things should look. But honestly, I wasn't really making any effort or doing anything about it. I was just really talking about it. And the game changer was when I started taking action. Inside, I started feeling different because I knew something was changing.
And so I just want to go through this real quickly so that we could think about it kind of logically, because a lot of times when we look at drugs or alcohol, it makes it easier to see. So if I could just have surgery and lose the weight, and that was the answer, and I got thin, and that thin made me happy, that means that if I'm an alcoholic and somebody locks me in my bedroom for a month and gives me food underneath the bedroom door, and I clean up for a month, when I walk out of the room, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm an alcoholic. I'm always going to be an alcoholic. I'm a drug addict. That ain't never going away. My thinking and my behaviors, they change because I'm working on changing them. But the isms that they say that go along with any kind of addiction, you're an addict, you're an addict. That's the way that it is. And so you're an addict. If you weren't an addict, you wouldn't have needed to have surgery to lose 150 pounds. I mean, you would say, geez, you know what? I just gained 50 pounds. There's something up. I think that I'll stop eating the way that I'm eating, right? If it's just because we're overeating. So you're an addict. I think it would be really important right now just to write it down, put it out. Really, my name is so-and-so, and I'm an addict in active addiction. Own it so that you could start working toward changing it. Were you going to say something, Ange?
No.
I remember you and I had a conversation, and you were saying the difference between a compulsive overeater and an addict was that a compulsive overeater, you tell them to stop eating, and they're able to do that, whereas a food addict is someone who's different. I would diet, lose the weight, and then almost instantly gain the weight back, and it was a cycle. I didn't just do it once or twice, it was a continual cycle. And I would go 6 months without touching something, and then all of a sudden I was binging and doing exactly the same thing because I thought I was recovered. And I could do it because I was cured, but it wasn't. It's the same thinking, that thinking is different.
Yeah, and you guys, we do recover. We recover from the emotional horror that we're living in, but we don't become an unalcoholic. We don't
Right.
become an unfood addict. That stuff is still with us, yes.
I think it's important to differentiate not a compulsive overeater, someone who's a little overweight.
Well, so sometimes, okay, so I am gonna differentiate. I have a patient that'll come in that's 100 pounds overweight. That'll say, you know what, you've got fatty liver disease, and I'm gonna send you to the GI doctor because you have fatty liver and your liver function tests are elevated, and you need to stop eating rice, bread, potato, pasta, and sweets right this minute, or you're gonna wind up with liver cancer. And they come back in a month and they've lost 20 pounds, and they come back in a year and they've lost the weight, and they're still doing the same thing that they were told to do because somebody said, if you keep practicing this behavior, you're going to be sick. And they say, okay. It's like going to the doctor as an alcoholic who says your liver function tests are elevated, you need to stop drinking because you're going to wind up sick. And they say, oh, okay. And so they do. And that's the end of it. Like, they understand that their behavior was hurting them, and they stop. Those people aren't addicts. Those people are alcohol abusers, or they abuse food, or maybe they're quote unquote emotional eaters that can get to that point where they could say, somebody said that isn't good for me, and they can stop. Those people aren't addicts, right? Those people who are just overdoing whatever it is that they're doing. The addict hears, you need to stop drinking or you're gonna lose your liver. And they say, wow, doc, thanks so much for giving me that information. And they drink on the way home from the doctor. And that's just the way it is. It's like our brains are broken,
So that reminds me, when it comes to the food, so when I would have that, I would start the whole mind game, but why? And the research has shown, and I have all these conversations, and then if I swap this for this and make it this way, and it looks like this, and it becomes like this whole perpetual cycle of these conversations in my head. And all it's doing is I'm planning this meal and then what I'm going to eat at the next meal. And all I'm thinking about in my whole day is driven around feeding myself and my addiction. I've lost so much time in doing that. It's such a different way of thinking.
Yeah, you know, an addiction is a physical craving and a mental obsession. Can we put that down somewhere? It's a physical craving and a mental obsession. So what you're talking about is the obsession. You wake up in the morning, what are you gonna do for breakfast? You're gonna eat it like this, but you're not gonna eat it like this. And then in the afternoon when you drop the kids off, and then you'll do this, but if you do this and you do this and you do, so we have that mental obsession, and then whichever receptor in the brain is firing, gives us that physical craving that feels like I'd rather stop breathing than give up opiates.
Right.
Like it would be easier just to stop breathing than to think about living my life without my addiction.
And the one thing recovery does is it takes away that obsession. So it doesn't take away the thoughts, but it takes away, you know, I still think about things because that's what I do. I'm an addict. I think about my drugs of choice. But I have a choice whether I act on those thoughts. You know, the things I put into my body at the end of the day are the things that I choose whether to do or not to do.
Right, unless I'm picking up what I'm not supposed to pick up, what my brain is addicted to. And then once I pick up that first drink or that first Oreo or that first one, then I'm off to the races again. Then I need to start over from the beginning in my brain so that I can get those receptors reset so that I can step into some kind of recovery so that I could be okay. Hi, Karen. You okay? Can you unmute? Good morning.
Yeah, I did. Good morning.
Good morning.
I had to find it first.
It's so good to see you. So talk a little bit about fear.
Yeah, I was thinking about what you were saying, and fear for me is an attempt to control what I don't have any control over. Perfect example is when I'm physically removed from a situation and I can't be there and micromanage it. I tend to obsess about, well, what if, and maybe I should call and say this and say that.
I love her.
And I didn't, but that's my tendency. That's my go-to.
Right, so those obsessive thoughts are that chaotic obsessiveness, which is the opposite of acceptance, right?
Yes.
Is a whole big problem, and I'm not going to say all of every addict's problem, but it's a whole lot of it. So maybe 70% of what we're going through, at least 70%, is that we're not having acceptance for those things we cannot change, right?
Yeah.
Right, and then the more time that you spend in your own head saying, well, and if I do this, maybe I should call me, if I said this, but maybe they're not going to call me, but if it was last week, and if I would have done this, and I could take a ride over there, and all of that stuff that doesn't allow you to live in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
That is the addiction, right? That's us. Right now I'm going through something, doesn't matter what it is, but still in my head, I have that thing where if I would have said this differently, or would have done this differently, or maybe if I do or say this, that this will happen on the other side. Don't happen like that, right? I show up, I act the way that I act, and then you show up and you are the way that you are, right? No matter how much I don't want you to be happy or sad or whatever, you're still gonna show up the way that you are, and I have absolutely no control over that.
Right. And part of it is not being trusting of somebody else to take care of a situation that I'm so convinced I could do much better at, But
yes, I do know.
Ultimately, they're fine.
Right, and remember, that I post that quote a lot that says, the best thing that we can do when it's raining is to let it rain.
Let it rain.
Let it rain, right? No matter how I feel or think or say, it's raining. Right? So how much do I want to fight against that? Right? You're awesome.
Well, we can't.
It's really good to hear from you.
So I just wanted to
Good to
ask
hear.
Karen something, because I'm gonna tell you, everything's so different about you from when you first started here to where you are today. So even though what we talk about sounds like simple concepts, where you came from, where you started, and where you are today, how much of this did you have to learn, and how long did it take you to really start understanding and working this so it works for you? I mean, you participate in workshops, you come to classes, you come to meetings, you make a tremendous effort, but what has that process been like for you?
Well, I'm still very much a student, and I'm still learning, and it's taken me the better part of a year that I've been involved with you all to really get it. It resonated immediately, and yet part of me was going, well, crap, I'm 70 years old. I should know this. So it isn't an instantaneous thing, it's a process. And
Right.
I'm still working on it.
And how's your life shifted and changed in that time period? I mean, we've
It's
seen you
night
for
and
the
day.
last year
Yeah.
and a half. A year, it's probably just
Yeah.
over a year. So where
Yeah.
you were, is there a big difference?
Oh yeah, I feel much better. I think people see it in me. I'm just not as anxious. I'm not as I mean there are things I've handled completely differently than I would have a year ago, and that frees me. It frees others, and I see a huge difference. I'm just lighter,
Yeah, and you
not weight wise, but lighter.
and you've had a whole lot of acceptance, and you've walked through a whole lot of fear, right? You've actually done stuff physically where you picked up the phone and spoken to somebody. You've walked through a whole lot of fear and had acceptance for the fact that what's going to happen on the other side is going to happen, and I'm just going to show
Right.
up and do my best to do my best. And although
Yeah,
you're going to have some chaotic thoughts, they're a whole lot less than what they used
Right.
to be.
So
Absolutely.
if you had to look at your happiness scale from where you started, where would you, from 1 to 10, where would you have placed your happiness?
I'd say probably a 2 or a 3.
And now,
And now, most days 8, 9. I just don't. I just feel like a different person.
so the reason I'm saying this is because we talk very subjectively, and for people out there who don't understand this, for some people it's a new concept for them and they getting here at different times. I think it's really important to understand that this is a process, you know, and each of us go through it differently. Life shows up, you know, Karen's moved, she's dealt with stress, she's dealt with other things, and no matter what, you put your recovery first, and the tools that you've got have helped you go through the process that you go through, the community you've got and the support you've got. How much of a difference does that make?
It's immeasurable. You know, I really couldn't do it without you all. I couldn't do it without Angeli, without Felice, without Haiti, without the community that's out there. And something as simple as posting a gratitude list daily really takes me back into my day and says, okay, now I don't know, you haven't been thinking about everything that happened, but think back, what good things have happened? And I can always find lots of them, but I try to focus on the 3 that really rise to the top, if you will.
You know, in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, we're not affiliated with Alcoholics Anonymous, but they have this thing where at the end of the day, we reflect back on our day. And we say, okay, had we kind of screw up? And however we did screw up, okay, we did. Let's try to make it better. And then let's look at how we were great today, and let's walk forward with that greatness. And that's kind of like doing our gratitude list.
100%.
Right.
And I also just wanted to say, you know, we put out a challenge to everyone last time we met, and we said, you know, we want other people to get recovery. You know, we want people to be able to have the opportunity of participating in classes, and we're that excited and that passionate about it that we're going to start giving away a ticket to the next workshop the next class when it's coming up on the 7th of March. And the way it looked was people either had to, there's a different challenge. This one was sharing and liking the post of the video, because honestly what we're doing is to help anyone who really wants it. You know, that's ultimately who it is. And Mary Ellen T, you were our winner from the last one. So anyone looking to get a free ticket, the best way to do it today is to sign up at the website. Okay?
Yeah, so Mary Ellen, you won, so you get a free class on Thursday, March 7th. So good job, you. Ange?
Yes.
So you and I have been a little, my therapist
So wait.
hates when I say that I'm crazy.
So to sign up at the website, you go to So Why Wait, like the thing on the scale, weight.net. Just register, puts you into the community. There's loads of resources, there's great books, there's great things to see there. We get great information, we share our gratitude there. Come join us.
So I was talking with Ange because I said, my therapist hates when I say like I'm crazy. So we've both been a little crazy this last week, right? A lot of stuff going on, and I want to know if there's anything that you wanted to share.
I don't know.
Okay.
Can you come back to me?
Yeah, sure I can. Sure I can. I know that your mom was sick, and that was scary,
Okay.
right? Your
Yeah.
mom's been going through some stuff, and that's a little scary for you because there's no control there,
Yeah.
right? You could just do your best to be there for her.
Yeah.
Which, and I'm not so sure in the past, you know, if this was 2 years ago, if you would have really been able to be there for her spiritually, been there for her, no matter what was
no,
going
'cause
on.
this happened 2 or 3 years ago in
Yeah.
the past, and I wasn't the same.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
So
I
now
know.
you're on top of stuff and making sure that she's okay and getting her meds and making sure, and actually taking care of her.
Right.
And she's your mom. And so even being able to do those little tiny things, which kind of make us more of a complete and happy person, right? Because that's you being of service. Even just with little things like that, that when we go through that, we get through that fear, and talk about that fear. And it just helps us to get along better in our universe. So I'm proud of
And
you about
even-
that.
Thank you. And even like, you just said that, and now my mind's kind of like, I'm thinking that even to leave her, like before I would never leave. I'd be like, I have to be there because I have to be in control of what's happening. Even though if something happened, I couldn't do anything. But like, I went out with you yesterday, and I left her alone with Dad or whatever, or even by herself for some of the time, and I didn't think about it. So, yeah, and I guess to add to that fear thing, I guess I've been doing a lot of different things lately, and yeah, the fear is there, but I think this since the beginning of this year, especially like the past 2 months, I've seen how I've grown in my recovery and just as an adult, I think, because there's so many things that I've done that I wouldn't even think of doing before. And it's pretty cool because I never thought, I got to a place where things were better, and I didn't think that I would ever get over the things that I have. And so it's quite amazing. Sometimes I don't feel like it's my real life.
Yeah. And yeah, so even with school, like with calling who you needed to call at school, and trying to make sure you get into school by here, and all of that stuff, those little things that you chatted with somebody where I don't know if you would have done that before.
I wouldn't have.
Yeah, and so instead of being afraid, what would happen if I do this? What's going to happen if I do this? You're like, oh, okay, I'm going to try this. And so, and that's really cool too. I saw this quote this week, and it said that we didn't come this far to only come this far. And so that's it gives me chills when I say it. And so for me, that's when we talk about recovery and knowing that wherever I am today, that things can even get better. That as long as I'm working on me, and I'm working on my happy, and I'm working on my acceptance, and I'm working on my perspective, no matter where I am spiritually, that spiritually I can even get better. And as I get better spiritually, then I will be of service to others. And that helps me spiritually as well.
Yeah, so when you just said that, I was at a point where I thought, okay, this is as good as I'm gonna get, and now I see that there's a lot of other areas that I still have to grow in and improve in, and it's possible to do it.
Yeah, because if we're not walking forward, if we're standing still, time's going this way.
Right, and I think it's also being in that space of being willing and open, to be in that space of being open to doing something and having the willingness to actually just do something different, no matter what it looks like, and have faith that it's going to be okay, and whatever it is, it's just going to be what it is, and you did your best, and things work out that way.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's just like when we say, okay, for the next 7 days, you're going to do a gratitude list, whether you want to or not, and your strength for today, and you just do it because somebody in recovery said that it was a good idea. Instead of fighting it, why should I have to do a gratitude list? Yes, you did fight it. Why do I have to do a gratitude list? And well, in your head though, you're like, why do I have to do this, right?
Yeah.
And let's all be pissed off because somebody asked me to write a gratitude list. Like that goes hand in hand.
It was stupid.
Right, it was stupid. And so you thought it was stupid, but you did it anyway because you were
anyway.
sick enough
Yeah.
where you either needed to get better or you were going to get worse. Right? So those who fight against, tell the gratitude list allows us is to look back at our day, like Karen said, and to point out what was awesome, which changes our perspective and our strength for the day, which could be anything. It could be showing up, it could be happiness, it could be perseverance, it could be change in perspective, it could be anything that we choose as our strength for that day. And again, it's learning how to change our perspective and look at what's good as opposed to looking at what's not.
So if you go to the website, on the front page it said post gratitude here, just press that and it will take you straight to where you posted. List the 3 things that you're grateful for and your strength for today. And just while we're talking gratitude, I just wanted to say thank you as well. Thank you. Thank you for introducing me to recovery, for being part of my process, for teaching me and loving me through the process. And I'm just really grateful for you. I love you.
I'm grateful for you back. And I mean that sincerely.
Me too. And I just also wanted to say thank you to Angelie and Ahmed, who come here tirelessly. I mean, every week they are
Always.
here and they show
Always.
up and they just really help get the message out. And also to the West Broward Club, which is in Davie. And this is an amazing classroom. Anyone who lives within Southeast Florida, come join us. It's an awesome, awesome space to come walk into and come see us face to face. And just thank you. I'm very grateful.
Ahmed, anything you want to share on?
No.
Okay.
Almost.
He's usually silent, but we had, a second where I thought maybe, and if you ever want to, of course, we would love to hear from you, so, and gratitude for you and Ange again.
So I don't know if Sarah's still there.
Well, Sarah, we see just the square that says Sarah.
Right.
So she just unmuted herself. Hi, Sarah.
Hi guys.
How are you?
Good morning.
So
Good,
nice to
good.
see you.
I know it's been a while.
What's
Really
going on,
nice
girl?
to hear. Nothing much, I love this topic of when you speak of fear, because so much of my life has been living in constant fear, and recovery has given me a lot of tools, to be less in fear and more confident of situations. But that's definitely something that I feel I can still work on. Sometimes my anxiety, it stems from my fear of things or not going, a particular way or the outcome. So sometimes that definitely can get the best of me. But I would say that lately, well, more recently, the greatest thing that I've incorporated into my life was incorporating faith. And I've been able to just connect spiritually, in the morning, expressing out loud 3 things that I'm grateful for. What's my strength for the day? What do I want that to look like? What am I grateful for? And just things that I would like, speaking in existence, things that I would like, to happen in my life. And then doing the same thing before I go to bed at night, the exact same thing. And I've been, I actually incorporated that in my daughter's life. We do it in the morning,
Awesome.
we do it at night. And I think that's just been a game changer for me, because if you don't have faith and you don't speak, I feel like if you don't speak into existence, then it just makes things a whole lot harder. So I'm really happy that I've been able to incorporate that, and I feel like it's really been helping.
So Sarah, it doesn't matter that you've lost like your 896 pounds or whatever you've done, congratulations for doing that.
Right.
But when I first met you, I remember you would come when we were having the meetings in Hades' house, and you'd sit on the
Right.
couch and you'd shake, right? And you were
Yeah.
in so much in fear and so much chaos in your head. I remember we would talk about your family, and you would be like, well, he says this, so she says this, so she says this, and you were constantly trying to change the things you can't change. Constantly
Right.
trying to step into somebody else's thing so that it could be better for the somebody else, as opposed to saying, okay, these are the people and these are how they are, and the chips are going to fall where they do, and I am going to have acceptance for that. You didn't smile ever. Not in the very beginning. You were sick and scared and all up in your head and full of chaos. And so again, with the 8 billion pounds or whatever you lost, congratulations, your Facebook pictures look pretty. That's great. But spiritually, the way that you look, when you show up with your smile and you're like, oh yeah, I'm doing this and I'm working on this. And that's the part for me that shows so much about that change that you've made. Because the weight is just weight, right? And right now seems
course.
like you're making your life about moving forward spiritually. And
Yes.
even sharing that with your little girl, man, they don't teach
Yeah.
any of this stuff in school. Do they have a gratitude
Right.
class for little kids? Do they have a be kind to each other class? Do they have a what can I do for my neighbor today class? No,
No.
which is horrifying. Somebody should do that. We should talk to Ashley about that. She should have like a school like that, right?
She would totally.
I'm gonna talk to Ashley. Anyway, but I'm not kidding, because this is the
No,
stuff
no.
that we don't learn. Right? So good job you, man, for sharing that with your little one and for
Thank
making
you.
that a part of her life. and not just being a mom, but being of service to your kid and to the universe. We hear her.
So I love that.
So cute.
I love that you mentioned you start your day off with gratitude, because you know when I think of the things that I did to my body and the stuff that how I abused myself, being able to get up in the morning in the form that I am in is such a blessing. Because a lot of people either didn't make it through or hurt themselves or are unable to do it. So really being able to be given a gift of a new day is really in itself quite exceptional.
Yeah, and then what are we going to do with this day? And how much are we going to stay, paying attention to the movie? What's going on right in front of us, as opposed to what may happen tomorrow, which, sucky place to be.
Isn't it funny how as addicts we either live in the past or the future? We're like these continual time travelers when we're in our addiction, and it's never really being in the moment and in the now. Living in the now is something we struggle with.
So, Haiti, I don't know how much that has to do with addiction or how much that has to do with human nature. Because I know people that aren't addicts, that something has happened in the past and they just rehash it, and if only, and if I could just, and so now they're going to think about tomorrow and the next day and the next day and what they're going to do and how it's going to change and where they do miss the movie. I don't know if that's so much of an addict thing or a people thing. Yeah.
To add to what Haiti said, I think the in addiction, I think it plays out a certain way. When we play in the past, it gives us a self-fulfilling reason. Well, this is why I am the way I am. When we play in the future, we say, well, if this didn't happen, I would be like this. So
Yeah,
I think it presents.
And so maybe living in the past and in the future just gives us more of a reason to use.
Right.
Right,
Like
Since we're already
an excuse.
using, yeah,
Right, that
yeah,
becomes
yeah.
a really valid excuse.
Yeah.
If your life was as crap as mine, then you would use too.
Yeah, and I told you in that movie, I love when he says that, when he says, and if you just knew what it felt like to be me, you'd tell me it was okay to use. You would use too. You would tell me, yeah, of course, use. Anybody that feels like you should use, right?
Exactly. So I saw this really good quote, because when I was in active addiction, I carried so much resentment. And I saw this great quote: "Whatever angers you controls you," and it's been resonating in my
Whatever
angers you controls you.
whatever angers you
Because
controls
that's
you.
all where your head sits, and that's all where you focus on. So when you're surrounded by assholes and that's all you're thinking about, you're missing living in the now.
Yeah, so we're talking about fear, right? Because anger is fear,
Right.
right? So if I'm walking around in fear, I'm walking around in fear. Yeah, and I am missing out on my life spiritually now. Sarah, did you have something else to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something really quick. I just wanted to put out there, as going back sort of to what you were saying about weight loss. I wanted to put it out there that no matter if you're overweight or no matter if you lost 100 or whatever pounds, that it's not going to change anything. You might feel a little bit more confident, but like personally, having that eating disorder, addiction, weight, I still in my mind, I wake up like, oh, I probably gained weight. I probably did,
We all did, right?
Right. So I just want to put it out there that losing the weight, it's not going to change anything if you don't have the tools, because it's never really about the weight. It's about, happiness can't be based off of your weight. It's about everything else in your life and learning how to deal with things in life. So I just want to put it out there that losing the weight does not equal happiness.
Right, because
doesn't.
Sarah, otherwise anybody who dieted, who starved themselves for a month
Right.
and they lost whatever weight would be happy.
Anorexics would be
Right.
ecstatic. all the
And
time.
imagine how happy
Right.
us anorexics would be, right? Oh, I weigh 95 pounds. I look great, and maybe I'm going to die next week, but hey, I'm happy because I'm skinny, right? Yeah,
Right.
so,
it just doesn't equate.
yeah, thanks for saying that. Yeah, and it's, and so then we're talking about the spiritual recovery component. Did you have something?
Right.
Yeah, we had a question, but I think we have a minute left.
What's the question real quick?
Okay, it's from Veronica. She says, hello from Canada, second time here, struggling with binging for the past 3 weeks. I'm feeling lost and I'm not sure why when I finally admitted my addiction, it has gotten so much worse.
So, thank you so much for sharing that. We need kind of a long time to talk about that.
Yeah.
So let's open up next Sunday With that, so we're going to start with Veronica's question. So Veronica, please be here with us next Sunday. We are going to sign up for that class. You know, we're going
She
to
can
sign up.
join us on Zoom too, that'd be great.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. So can we send her that information?
Yes.
Yes.
You guys, can actually be in here virtually in the room with us, and so it would be great to see you. That helps a lot. Helps you to be more of a part of the community. Sign up for the class on Thursday, March 7th. That's gonna we're gonna talk a little bit and learn how to stop just eating emotionally, because we're gonna talk about why that is, what that is, you know, what's driving that, what's feeding that. And thank you so much for being here. And again, we don't have the time, but we definitely will open up with that next week.
So to sign up for any other classes, any other meetings, to be within our room, just go to the website. It's really easy. Front page, click join a meeting, register, and it sends you the code and how to get in.
And Ange, if we could put up the website, it's SOWHYWEIGHT, SOWHYWEIGHT
Yeah.
.net or .net.
And we'll put up a link
Yeah,
here.
we'll put
I'll
it
put
on
up
the
the link.
video
Thank
too.
you. Yeah.
So we
So
need to take it out.
yeah. So I am so blessed and so grateful for every one of you. Thank you for being a part of my recovery. My name is Dr. Felice Cellini, and this was our Sunday morning Why Wait for Recovery community meeting.
I'm so grateful for every single one of you. If no one's told you today that they love you, I love you, and make it a beautiful week. I'm Haiti. Peace out.
Peace out, you guys.